Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, yeah. Live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the big show for this beautiful, crisp and clear Monday. Yep, there's a little white frosty stuff out on the car outside. 32 degrees here at the old radio ranch in the Mat-Su, and we are ready to go. Today, a little bit unusual. I mean, surprising, quite honestly, coming up to the fact that we're about 4 weeks away from the election, and we have no guests today. And it just kind of, I don't know, just kind of worked out that way. I'd reached out to a few people, and nobody doing their thing. Nobody available today. So it's just you and me today, which means we're going to have some phone calls. You can give us a call and chat about things that you care about and want to talk about at 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. And we got a bunch of headlines to talk about as well from around the state. And we're ready to dive into it and just talk about it. Just talk about it. How about we just do that? How about we just jump in and get things ready to rock and roll? What's on the what's on the platter for today? Well, there's a bunch of different stories, and one of them is kind of interesting. I've seen several stories from several different media outlets, all coming back to the battle between Walter Featherly and Julie Colomb. And I think this is critical because, the legislature, the majority in the legislature is pretty slim. And it could be, there could be a single seat that gets turned over here could cause some real problems for the current majority in the legislature, the Republican majority. And I don't know if they see this as a seat that is at risk or, sensitive or what, but it is, there have been several stories out there. Now, interestingly enough, I don't know if it's interesting, other than I guess it's predictable, maybe, is the story that I should be jumping in on here on this. Claire Stremple over at the Alaska Beacon has written a story that kind of matches some of the tones in the story that was in the ADN here about a week ago about Featherly. And then Must Read Alaska has also got a story that talks about the same thing. Both of them talking about the candidacy of Walter Featherly, who we'd had on the program in the past to discuss his candidate about, must have been 5-6 years ago. He was on the program to talk about some of this stuff when he was running for another statewide office. Anyway, we're going to go over that. We're also going to talk a little bit about Mary Peltola. She just continues to she continues ahead here. And she is still doing things that nobody's calling her out for. I guess Must Read is the only one that's really calling her out for it. And I don't know why. I don't know why Carmela Warfield and some of the other folks on the opposite side of the fence are not crying foul about some of the things that are going on here. But we'll talk about that as well. Anchorage has its own version of Senate Bill Senate Bill 91. You remember that? Senate Bill 91, the catch and release for the criminals that had everybody so up in arms, that was finally overturned. For Anchorage, the city of Anchorage has their own version of this, and it's creating some problems. And we'll talk about that as well. The legislature decides to ban some large signs at the Capitol, and kind of whatever else comes across the electronic transom this morning. So if you've got a story that you've been watching that you're just like, wow, we need to talk about this, feel free to give us a ring this morning again and get in the queue, and let's have some conversations, because that's what I'm looking forward to today, is chatting with you. I'm chatting with you on all those subjects. So 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. If you want to come on board and join us. So where do we start? I guess we'll start off with Mary Peltola, who is now moving on to yet another violation, I guess, of state law. I mean, she's gotten away with a lot of this stuff here over the last few months, and nobody's really said anything to her about it. I mean, it's been pointed out, but there's been no complaints filed with APOC or the state or anything else. I mean, she had that fundraiser in Fairbanks where she was giving away free beer at the thing. That was one. And then earlier this year, she held a campaign event at North Pole High School, which is a violation of state law. The Alaska school districts, the school districts in Alaska are prohibited from using public resources, including school facilities, for political events or activities that promote a particular candidate, party, or ballot measure. State law restricts the use of public resources for political purposes, but she used the high school as a place for a meet and greet with her campaign. And now, apparently, next week, she and candidate Savannah Fletcher are going to host an event at the Fort Yukon School on October the 12th, which is this Saturday, at the Fort Yukon School. School districts can host nonpartisan events, but this is a meet and greet that's sponsored by specific active clients, candidates who are in the middle of running for office. So it doesn't look like it's a nonpartisan event, right? This is a political event. But no party or legal entity challenged her on the North Pole High School thing. So apparently they think this is just A-okay. I mean, just A-okay. And that's the thing. When they get away with it and when nobody squawks about it, I guess they just assume that it's going to be okay and continue. I mean, who at these schools... who's in charge of these facilities, the scheduling, et cetera, who's giving the go-ahead on these things? They should know that you can't hold a political event at a public school. I mean, that's part of the, that's why you have schedulers for this kind of stuff. So it's interesting to see, because I guarantee you if, Mike Cronk or Kevin McCabe or somebody who's running for office on the other side of the aisle was utilizing this and I guarantee you that the Democratic Party, the state Democratic Party, would be like, hey, it's that ain't right. That's not lawful. So I'm just kind of curious where the party is on that. Where's the ARP? Come on, guys. What's happening? Why aren't we upholding this is supposed to be, we're supposed to be, respect for the rule of law and everything, unless this is being completely misreported. Because nobody else is really mentioning it. Like I said, Mustread's been talking about it, but is that wrong? I mean, I haven't gone up and looked up the pertinent state statute, but I don't recall ever having a political rally or campaign in a school building before. So it seems reasonable to me. So what's going on? What's going on here? What do you think? Maybe private citizens need to get involved. Maybe, the Begich campaign or the Kronk campaign needs to get involved, since this is a combined event between Peltola and Fletcher. Maybe that's what needs to happen. But again, I'm just curious as to who signed off, because you don't just show up and say, I want to use your gymnasium for a couple hours. Right? I mean, you got to call and you've got to get approval and you've got to get it scheduled and you've got to do all those things. It just seems a little weird that somebody just signed off on this and was like, yep, that passes the smell test. That seems totally legit. But hey, again, where's the rest of it? Sorry. Somebody in the chat room just said, hey, I see you made it, MD Michael Dukes. You made it in on the, on the Against Nick commercial. Yeah. Apparently they've got a clip of the show from YouTube or Facebook or something where I'm interviewing Nick and he's talking about it being a Ponzi scheme, Social Security being a Ponzi scheme, which it is in a way, right? Where the people who are paying in now are paying out the benefits of people who are taking benefits out now. It is a bit of a Ponzi scheme. Now, I mean, I know the argument is, well, but technically speaking, a Ponzi scheme. The problem is that they're missing the broader point here, which we can talk about in the next segment if you want. If you want to talk about the whole Nick Begich Ponzi scheme thing, the broader thing here is that there's a problem with Social Security. There's a problem with Social Security. And we've got to get that problem fixed. Now, whether you call it a Ponzi scheme or whether you call it smoke and mirrors or whatever you call it, they want to get down into the nitty gritty of, well, technically a Ponzi scheme is the Charles Ponzi, and this is not that because they've had the money. And okay, all right. And by the way, this was a story this was a interview that I did with Nick last year, 2023. They must be going into the Wayback Machine trying to find anything that they can pull up, that they went all the way back to June of last year to pull that video out to discuss it. I think that is fascinating, So anyway, we could talk about that here in just a minute. We'll do that on the other side here because there's some breakdown on this. And we'll see where this goes. Alex Grimark has got an article out about this, and we'll tackle that here in just a moment or so. Plus, again, as I said earlier, phone lines are open. So if you guys want to talk about anything, feel free to do so. 319-527-3864. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Oh, okay. Did we ever get the final vote count for the close elections? For example, the mayoral race in Fairbanks. No, we're supposed to have a final vote count tomorrow on a lot of those races. They're supposed to, it takes a week to get all the absentee and the question ballots, et cetera, et cetera. So we're supposed to have closeout on a lot of those tomorrow, the 8th, a week after Election Day. And then there's some, depending on where they're at, if they were mail-in voting or whatever, and that'll take, some of those will take, I think, 30 days for the final vote count to be in on those. Final vote. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. Good and evil. Palmer woman competes in porridge competition. That's like the most random comment of the day, Rick. There was a porridge competition? Like eating porridge? What? I'm confused. I'm confused. Kevin says ADN and the Alaska Beacon, Walter Featherly mouthpiece. I mean, yeah, it's yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I made it on the commercial against Nick. Let's see. Would a sales tax also increase the cost of services and goods to consumers? Yes. I mean, yes, there would be a cost to that, whatever the cost of the sales tax is. Would it increase the cost of the overall economy? That would depend on the other measures that are attached to it. So that's part of it. I don't know what I was talking about, but Brian says it's for the children. Must be for having the things in the schools, but it's for the children. Money for lawyers, says Kevin. I think the Democrats have a lot of money to spend on lawyers. The Alaska GOP has no such large donors. Well, I mean, they should at least bring it up and file an APOC report, even if they don't do it if it's so blatantly unlawful and obviously unlawful, then they at least should file right? I mean, okay, you don't take it to court, but you at least file an APOC complaint to say this is an illegal. I mean, you can't do this. Point it out to somebody in the state government or, somewhere. Ron says he's watching from Wisconsin this morning. Good morning, Ron. Thanks for Ronald. Thanks for tuning in. Kevin says the problem with, I think he's talking about Social Security, is twofold. The aging out of the workforce and the, quote, less than 2.1 kids per marriage, quote. Currently in the U.S., we're averaging 1.6 kids per marriage, not enough to sustain population in the uber long term, which again is part of the problem with the sustainability of Social Security because there used to be enough money coming in from multiple people were not required to pay out the benefits of Social Security. It was just like one or two, and now it's like 14 people to pay out the benefits for one person compared to like one or two before. Brian, he's using big words this morning. It is effectively a Ponzi scheme, but has the imprimatur of the state, so it's not. But if you or I had hatched or rammed up such a scheme, we'd be doing time with Bernie Madoff. Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Pretty much it. All right. Let's I guess we'll get back to it. Phone lines are open if you guys want to sound off. I mean, let's go. Let's go with it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay. Sorry. It's a lot of commentary in the chat room this morning. You can always join us in the chat room, if you'd like to. The chat room is attached to, both Facebook and YouTube, but Facebook's probably got the most people hanging out in it right now. Facebook.com/Michael Duke Show /live if you want to go over there and hang out with us and be part of it. We'd love to see you out there and come on in and share your thoughts and your words and your actions with us over there. We'd love to be part of it. All right. Well, let's talk just a little bit here. Alex Grimark, who is I'm sorry, not Grimark, Guymark, Gimarc, Alex. He writes occasionally for Must Read Alaska, and he's got an interesting take on this ad that Vote Alaska Before Party had put out, which is the one where you see my shining face in the ad with Nick Beggage's, and then they proceed to chastise him for calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme. The ad has worked so well, says Alex, that the Mary Peltola campaign picked it up and started using the attack in her ads over the weekend. So apparently, we're all famous, right? It accuses Republican congressional candidate Nick Begich of calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme. And then, which is, this is the interesting part. They say he calls it a Ponzi scheme, and then they accuse him of wanting to shut it down along with Medicare. Now, I'm thinking back to my conversations with Nick Begich, which is where this Ponzi scheme comment originated, was here on the program during an interview with him last year. And I don't ever remember him saying that he wanted to shut down Social Security or Medicare. And in fact, he was talking about Social Security being a Ponzi scheme the way it's set up now, and that we have to deal with it. Otherwise, it's going to go away. So I'm trying to wrap my brain around how did they jump from one to the other of saying that he wants to shut down Social Security? Because I think my comment has always been that, yeah, we've got to do something about it because it's slated to run out. I mean, I have a personal stake. I mean, I don't care about all you guys. No, I mean, I have a personal stake in this because Social Security is supposed to run out the year before I get Social Security. Right? I mean, this is like, hey, what about me? Right? So I've paid all this money into Social Security over the years, and now it's going to be like, sorry, you don't. So I don't ever remember him saying we needed to eliminate Social Security. I mean, we may have talked about how people, that maybe over the years, people would have been better off if they hadn't had the money taken out and they could have invested it themselves. But I don't recall. I don't think we even said anything like that. But this is what it is. The shock, the horror, the humanity. He wants to shut it down. But they've, and Alex Guymark points out that this has been a line of attack from the Democrats for at least 60, 70 years. I mean, they've been saying the same thing about their Republican opponents since 1944, right? That they want to shut down Social Security. But this whole thing about it being a Ponzi scheme and the Huffington Post actually had an article about this where they first referenced it. And they referenced the show, they referenced the interview and where he said Ponzi scheme. And then they spend like half the article talking about what an actual Ponzi scheme is and how the Social Security it's how it's different. It's different. But again, missing the whole point of saying we are, whether we're putting money in to pay the beneficiaries now, where's the money that the beneficiaries had put in themselves kind of thing, whether we're focusing on that detail or the fact that something needs to be done to fix it. See, they miss the forest through the trees. They get stuck on the semantics of, he said it's a Ponzi scheme. He said it's a Ponzi scheme. Now, if you want to talk about Ponzi schemes, Guy Marks says that the Democrats and Peltola know all about Ponzi schemes. They benefited from the Sam Bankman-Fried crypto Ponzi scheme. He gave the Democratic Party and through them to Peltola to help her win her seat in Congress. He gave them hundreds of thousands of dollars last election cycle. He's currently in the House of Many Doors serving 25 years for that same Ponzi scheme where he defrauded thousands and thousands of investors. He gave to the Democratic Party and other Democratic causes in 2022 $40 million. $40 million. Now that's a drop in the bucket compared to what he took and stole. He was convicted of stealing $8 billion from customers on his crypto exchange. But he gave to the Democrats, he gave $40 million. So, I mean, they should know all about their, they should know all about the Ponzi schemes because they're working with the king of Ponzi at that point. Anyway, it's interesting that that this has become the line of attack, and apparently, like Guy Marks said early on in the article, apparently it's working because Peltola's campaign has now picked it up. And the problem here is that if you add more people to Social Security, people who haven't been paying in over the years, and whether that's, folks who have gotten here either legally or illegally, they've come across the border and they've signed up for Social Security benefits, but they've never paid a dime into the system up until now, and they're only a handful of years away from, getting those benefits, that's obviously going to cause a problem. That's obviously going to create an issue. Social Security has always relied on payroll taxes paid by the current people working to pay the full benefits. They have monies in the trusts and everything else, but it's not enough to pay the current crop. And so they've been depending on those payroll taxes. And it wasn't a big deal when it was, one or two people paying the benefits of one person. But when it's 12 or 13 or 14 people having to put money in to pay the benefits of one person, that's going to create a problem, especially as the baby boomers continue to retire and at a accelerated rate. So technically a Ponzi scheme? No, but does it have all the bookmarks and earmarks and does it smell like a duck? Does it quack like a duck? Does it swim like a duck? It might be a duck. That's what the problem is right there. That's the thing. I mean, are we really here to miss the biggest thing? Are we here to miss the biggest point of this whole thing? Not whether you called it a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme or something else, some kind of boondoggle. Shouldn't we fix it? Shouldn't that be the main point here, is to fix the problem? But that's what they're getting all worked up about, the fact that he said Ponzi scheme, where it may not fit the technical definition. But it sounds like this is something that Randy got involved in. It's not a tax technically. Does it have the effect of a tax? Well, yes, but I mean, it's not a tax technically, but All right, let's go over to the phones and see what you guys have to say. It looks like Carlene from Kodiak is calling in. Good morning, Carlene. What's on your mind?
This scheme that probably is not called a Ponzi scheme, but it's just like one. One of the books that I've been reading recently, the same thing has happened with the FDIC. There was a conversation, someone took over the FDIC, William Isaac, and then he read in the financial statements that they had contributed $11 billion, which was at the Treasury Department. So William Isaac called up the Treasury Department, and it was Treasury Secretary Don Regan. And there was a conversation, and the new head of the FDIC said, Don, I want to come over and see the money. And Mr. Regan said, what money? And Isaac said, well, you know, the $11 billion the FDIC has in the vault at the Treasury. And then the Treasury Department says, well, you see, Bill, there's kind of a problem. So Isaac says, well, I don't have to come and see it today. You know, we can tomorrow or next week. And Isaac said, right, ha ha ha. And then he said, no, really, the banks have been paying money to the FDIC and turning the money over to the Treasury, and the Treasury has been spending it on missiles, school luncheons, water projects, and the like. The money's gone. But it says right here in this financial statement that we have over $11 billion at the Treasury. And then Regan says, in a sense, you do. You see, we owe that money to the FDIC and we pay interest on it. And then Isaac says, I know that might sound pretty far-fetched, but what would happen if we should need a few billion to handle a bank failure? And then Regan says, well, that's easy. We borrow it. And you'd have the money in no time, same-day service most days. And then Isaac said, let me see if I got this straight. The money the banks thought they were storing up for the past half century, you know, the last 50 years, sort of is saving it for a rainy day, is gone. If a storm begins brewing and we need the money, Treasury will have to borrow it. Is that most of it? Regan said, yep. And then Isaac, I'm almost done.
Go ahead.
One more thing while I've got, why do you bother pretending there's a fund? And Regan says, I'm sorry, Bill, but the president's on the other line. I'll have to get back to you on that. And I think that's what happened to Social Security.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know that has happened, that they've utilized the funds for other things, and then they've borrowed the money, and then they're going to pay interest on it to then pay it back. And you're right. I mean, that's part of the thing, is that the money has been spent on other things with a promissory note, with a, you know, you look in there and it's a cookie jar full of IOUs. Is essentially, there's no dollars in the cookie jar. It's all a bunch of slips of paper that says I owe you several gazillion dollars. We'll pay it back, but again, with interest. So what is the cost of borrowing that interest? What is the cost of borrowing that money and doing all those things? They never think about that. They always think that they're so much smarter than everything else, than the economy or free markets or anything, and that they'll be able to make that happen. That's critical. Which book is this from again, Carlene?
The $1 trillion conspiracy of the New World Order man-made diseases and zombies are destroying America, and it's no longer a $1 trillion conspiracy. It's an old book, 2008, and all of these have happened. So it's not a conspiracy. They've already happened since 2008.
Okay. All right.
And what he did say too, it just costs 4 cents to print a $100 bill. Then they lend that out and they get interest on that printed 4-cent $100 bill that took to print it.
All right, Carlene. Well, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it. That was an interesting component. And you're right. That's the problem. Where's the money? Oh, well, it's there. We owe it. I mean, we borrowed it and we'll pay it back with interest. And if we really need it right away, we'll just borrow some more. We'll just shuffle some paper around and call it real money, and that's part and parcel of the problem. So you're right, and Brian is right. I did get that backwards. Thank you, Brian, for pointing that out. It used to be that there were 14 workers there because there was enough workers to support it. A single person could be supported by the contributions of 14 workers, but the workforce and the number of people who are drawing from Social Security have increased, and so now it's down to 2 workers. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. I did have that backwards. So you are 100% correct. All right, we're gonna go. Phone lines are open. If you want to call in like Carlene did and give us your thoughts on things, we'd love to hear what you have to say. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. And what about Rumble Chat? Oh, I'm sorry. I snare wolves. You're right. What about Rumble Chat? There is Rumble Chat as well. I apologize. I'm sorry, sir. I apologize. There's a dozen people over on Rumble right now coming over here. I'm sorry. Rick was saying, seriously, a shout out to the people of Western North Carolina, probably the biggest disasters of our time. Yeah, the pictures are pretty astonishing. You see what happens out there. And then Kevin said, and if rumors are true, and I'll be honest, I have not been keeping up on this whole disaster debate thing. If rumors are true, the government reaction or response is COVID-like. Saw a video from a first responder who said FEMA was confiscating all the supplies from volunteers. And we know that Elon Musk was trying to deliver some stuff in there, apparently. I did see that headline and was denied. I don't know. Rick said that did happen, but they stopped it because some of the locals were about to put people in the hospital. Good morning. And I'm with Brian on this. I have heard so many rumors coming out of natural disasters over the years. Every time one of them make the rounds in social media, I throw up a yellow warning flag. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know. I mean, not that it'll do these people any good to do a postmortem after the dust settles, but it'll be interesting to see what the truth is after the dust settles, what the real truth is. Because, emotions are running high. There's a lot of things going on out there, and you just don't, maybe it did happen that way. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it was an isolated event. Maybe it was something that was, permeating every aspect of it. I don't know. Chris slept in this morning. You lucky booger. Lucky booger. My dog is making the most unusual noises this morning. All right. I'm going through some of the videos, seen posts. The government is seizing all the land in North Carolina or in Chimney Rock, told homeowner. Yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know what's true and what's not at that point. Let me take the money from your paycheck. I won't be paying you any interest, and I give it back to you at a little at a time in 40 years. Maybe. I mean, that was always the argument, right, for Social Security is that, well, you poor, pitiful children, you just can't take care of yourself and you can't figure it out. So let us take that money out for you and we'll dole it out to you as an allowance later on. Oh, by the way, we're going to tax you on it again. Right? I'm just like, wait a second. What? That just what? What is going on? You know? Let's see. I'm going through here. Frank said he hit a 49-year milestone event this year. What was your 49-year milestone event this year, Frank? Are you 49 or do you have another milestone event? Yeah. Tracer on Rumble says, my dog's snoring like a buzzsaw. My dog's like, it's not snoring. He's like moaning or something down there in his sleep. When mine starts making noises, says Brian, he gets ejected from the workspace. I just bump him with my foot and he's like, what are you doing? What's going on? Frank said he was paid, the 49-year milestone, he was paid overtime for the first time. Well, there you go. It's good money if you can get it. If you can get overtime, never a bad thing. Never a bad thing. Okay. Terry says, too many people are saying FEMA is a bad actor to not be believable. Well, I mean, again, don't ascribe malice and forethought to, incompetence and whatever that. I'm sure Brian will correct me on that thing, but never ascribe, because I think you said, didn't you quote that the other day, Brian? That which can be explained by incompetence and ineptitude. Don't ever, check out Lee Thomas Brown on Facebook. Okay. I'll see what I can come up with. All right. We're 10 seconds out and the phone lines are still open. 319-527-3864. If you guys want to sound off, we'd love to hear what you have to say. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Okay, welcome back to the program. It is the Monday edition of the Michael Duke Show. A brisk and crisp 32 degrees outside there. Whew, man. I'm ready. I am ready. For what? I don't know, but I'm not ready for winter. Summer was just too short. I feel like I'm busier than any time in my life. I got a lot of things going on in the background and I'm just like, wow, this summer was just click and you just snap and it was gone, Yeah, we had a summer. That's the question. Yeah, we have a summer? Well, I blinked and I missed it. But here we are getting ready for another one. So we're gonna dive into it. All right. So anyway, I think we've talked enough about Peltola and the Social Security and all that kind of stuff. But what, kind of a crazy, just to summate, kind of a crazy thing that they get so hung up on the words, they get so hung up on the definition of what a Ponzi scheme is that they miss the forest through the trees. They miss the full, the implication of we've got to do something because it's not going to be there, because there's just no way we're going to be able to do this. All right. Let's go over here and talk about some of the other stories that are floating around out there. Where do I want to talk? What do I want to talk about here? We touched on this just briefly last week, but I want to talk about it again because it came out. It came out on Wednesday or Thursday, and we just briefly brushed over it. And it goes back to what we've been talking about with some of the, well, I guess just to this last issue with the campaigning, where they're now saying, oh, you said Ponzi scheme, and it's not really, technically, it's not really a Ponzi. I mean, it acts like a Ponzi scheme, and it kind of looks the same, but it's not technically, it's not really. And so we're going back to this story from Ira Samuels in the ADN, talking about, could ballot measure number 2 lead to closed primaries in Alaska? Well, the short answer is maybe. That's what she says. That's the second phrase. That is the first 2 sentences. Could a November ballot measure lead the Alaska Republican Party to close its primaries to non-party members? The short answer is maybe. Okay. Could it lead to the Alaska Republican Party completely rewriting its entire platform and embracing, transgenderism, girls in teen sports, sending a cow to the moon? Maybe. Right? I mean, that's literally what they're saying. The current party platform, as it sits right now, and the way that it operated for the last 25 years since they closed the primaries down to keep Democrats out of the primary. The way that it's worked is, if you wanted to vote in the Republican primary, you had to be a registered Republican or an independent or an undeclared. Right? That was it. You didn't have to register with the party to vote. You just couldn't be a registered Democrat. Essentially. That's essentially what it did. You just couldn't be a registered Democrat. But they have latched onto this, and you've seen all the. I saw it again this weekend. I was watching YouTube, and I saw a video where it was, and they tied that dark money in again. This is the irony of this situation. If you don't get this, if you're not watching this, they talk about, and all this dark money from outside is there to prevent Alaskans from being able to vote in their own primaries. They literally link the dark money to this ballot measure number 2 repeal. They use the term dark money, and at the end, the top 3 contributors of the 513 fund, the this fund, the this PAC, the that PAC, all outside groups. And when you look at the APOC reporting of the Yes on 2 group, the Phil Izon Alaskans for Better, or Alaskans for Honest Elections, or whatever the name of the group is, and you look at who's contributing, it's all local, small. It's $100,000 versus $8 million. And that $8 million is all coming in from these big moneyed PACs from outside. You want to talk about dark money? But they use the word dark money. And then they tell veterans, you'll have to join a party. You'll have to join a party. And this article in the ADN goes in and breaks it all down. The group opposing the November ballot measures have been running advertisements warning voters of the potential outcome, forcing Alaska voters to register with a political party in order to cast a primary ballot. This is a possibility, group leaders say, even if the parties have never taken advantage of the option before. Well, that's like saying every man is a rapist because he has the equipment for it. Right? It could possibly happen. What? I mean, it's never happened before. That's not the way how it was laid out before. That's not how they were doing it before ranked choice voting came in. But no, that's what's going to happen. And it's not like they're saying it may happen in these ads. They are saying it will happen. That's the thing. They are, it's not a maybe in the discussion of this. It is a will happen. You will have to do this. You will have to do that. The Alaskan Republican Party has for decades allowed nonpartisan and undeclared voters to cast ballots in their primaries without registering. They've never changed that. They never said that they were going to change that. Some of the advertisements for No on 2 said that it would, quote, force thousands of veterans and active duty military to join a political party just to participate in Alaska's primary elections, unquote. Again, it's not a maybe. It's not it may happen. It's going to happen. And this is just madness. And as Lauren Lehman said, it would be incredibly disastrous for the Republican Party to exclude nonpartisan and undeclared voters because they make up almost 60% of the electorate. But here you go, Ann Brown, former chair of the GOP, the Alaska GOP, Ann Brown, who is, well, again, I said it last time we talked about this. You know, I hate to use the term rhino because I think it gets overused, Republican in name only, but she is really, I mean, if you look up the definition rhino in the dictionary, there's a picture of Ann Brown in there, right? About 8 or 10 years ago, there was talk in the party amongst insiders that we ought to do is take the primary in-house and hold the primary at a convention and just hold it. There was talk. But then everybody else, including people like Randy Rudrick, said there was a few people who argued for that, but it never got any traction. It never went anywhere. I mean, it's, sure, there's always people who will talk about certain things. Anyway, this whole thing is just this whole crazy thing is just insane. Even the attorneys for the Democratic Party, when they're trying to defend this stuff, because people have been sending cease and desist letters, they said the plain reading of the statute allows parties to exclude voters not registered with another party. Well, sure, it allows, but it allows it to do a lot of stuff. Is that what's actually going to happen? Well, we don't know. Well, then there you go. Maybe you should stop talking about it. All right, we got to go. Hour 2 dead ahead. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Okay. But we were told, we were promised that it would eliminate dark money. We were promised. $8 million in dark money from outside. Trying to warn us about the use of dark money. I mean, if that's just not... Thank you. Hanlon's Razor. Brian got me again this morning. He's got me. Never ascribe to malice that which can be attributed to incompetence. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Oh, man. Termination dust through the pass. Halfway down the mountain, says Cindy. Depressing. Don't worry. We're just that much closer to next summer, Cindy. Don't worry about it. Brian, I don't know what you're trying to say there, unless it's literally what you're trying to say. He says, I pooped today. Well, thank you. Jerica said she's taking her husband to Florida for his birthday at the end of the month so I can convince him to buy a second home there. Why would, I mean, I'm sure Florida is lovely. I've been there twice. No, once. Once? Yeah, I've been there once. And, I mean, it was lovely. It was hot and sticky. And, you know, I'm sure it was beautiful. But, I mean, all I could think of is every time there's a hurricane, I have to call my daughter to make sure she's okay. You guys okay? You in the path? Where is it? You know, are you, you know, how many times? She's lived there for 5 years, and already they've had the roof ripped off their house once. Right? So what's the rest of it look? And then they've been flooded one other time, and now this new one just came and missed them. But I mean, I'm just thinking that there's other places that I would rather live. I'm just saying. I'm going through here. Story: ship at Point Mac unloading 53,000 tons of salt. And there's more in the story. No word on the news. Is that good or bad? Is it a newsworthy story, Rick? Is there something here that I don't know? What's going on? I want to know. Yeah. Ron says, well, in essence, they are right. A person must be registered to vote in order to vote. The party is up to them, including. But what they're saying in the ad is that they have to register with the Republican Party to vote. That's what the ads are saying, Ron. That's what they're saying. You know. Okay. Going through here. Ann Brown was a real liability for the Republican Party. She's mean-spirited, as I found out when I was basically thrown out of the Alaska Policy Forum, which I and 3 others formed in 2009. I mean, yeah, she's not a, you know, yeah. Let's see. All the other, that's why Brian pointed that out. He goes, all these other people are hitting life milestones. His are modest. I mean, I got up this morning. That seems like a milestone for me. You know, that seems like a milestone for me. Oh, must read Alaska, says Rick. Is there a story in Must Read? Is that what you're talking about? I don't see it. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, I think we are all caught up. The big news in the Cook Inlet, speaking of Point Mac, is that Hex has brought up that jackup rig, and they're ready to drill for some more natural gas in the inlet. That'll be interesting to see if it actually brings anything to the forefront on that. That should be an interesting thing to see. This is Brian. Come on. It's like living in an earthquake-prone area with rogue glaciers, bears, and killer penguins. Assault penguins, I'll have you know. Assault penguins. I mean, it's just fine. I worry about, I worry about my kid. And the fact that basically when you go down to Florida and you know, it's like I had my friend describe it to me once when we were younger, and I'm like, what's it like down there? He goes, well, take a shower. And then when you get out of the shower, don't bother to dry off. Just put your clothes on because that's what it's like. I'm just like, heck. Oh, man. All right. Well, we're coming up on it, guys. Time to get back into it. Let's go. Hour 2 is dead ahead. You guys feel free to call in if you want. Talk about whatever. Let's go to it. The Michael Duke Show.
Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to the audio-only podcast or stream, and the podcast. You'll find links to the podcast there as well, which we do every day. You'll also find links to our social media sites where we simulcast the radio show on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. And of course, everything else that you want to know about the show out there. Also broadcasting live around the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the program. It is yet another beautiful day in our neighborhood here. Still 30. The temperature has not gone up at all in the last hour and a half. Still 32 degrees here at the old Radio Ranch. And we are ready to crack into it with hour two. No guest today. It's just you and me. And I would love to hear what you guys have to say on pretty much any topic you want to crack into today. It's open line, open forum. Whatever you want to talk about. We've been talking about the ranked choice voting debate, the dark money. We talked about Mary Peltola and some of the chicanery that we're seeing there. We just all kinds of stuff. So feel free to dial in if you'd like to participate in the conversation today or steer it in another direction. Feel free to do so at 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864 is the phone number, and we'd love to hear what you have to say, and we'll talk with you about whatever you want to talk about this morning. It's been interesting. There was there's been a lot of discussion about what's been going on with the police in Anchorage. Now, many of you are like, well, who cares about Anchorage? But I've said it once. I'll say it again. As goes Anchorage, so could go the rest of the state. If you people are not kind of paying attention to what's happening in Anchorage, you should be. You should be. And Suzanne Downing has got a new article out that came out Saturday talking about Anchorage police and how they have been demoralized by city leadership. And now they got knifed by their own union leaders with some illegal campaign literature left on doorknobs. Anchorage faces a potential crisis with the local police force, lack of police, not to mention the new budget from Mayor Suzanne LaFrance. Things are reaching a critical level with resignations in the police department increasing. On top of that, the Anchorage Assembly and the mayor control the public narrative over officer-involved shootings, and a lot of their supporters, who are somewhat radical sometimes, are now demanding third-party control of the Anchorage police. And in this, she has a picture of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, a group of very angry-looking 20-somethings who are standing there looking very angry, who are demanding civilian oversight now. Civilian oversight now. So, okay. Each of the police-involved shootings has involved dangerous suspects with weapons, some of whom have shot or shot at officers, and all of the officers have been exonerated by the State Office of Special Prosecutions. So there was a third party that came in. It wasn't just the police department investigating themselves. The state has an Office of Special Prosecutions that came in and took a look at each one of these instances. But Suzanne goes on to say that Mayor LaFrance and the Assembly have reacted to these assaults against officers by calling for independent review, civilian oversight, and the mayor specifically blamed officers even before an investigation was started. And then there's the Anchorage Police Department Employee Association through its Political Action Committee, which endorsed or supported these anti-law enforcement assembly members and the mayor. So how are the rank and file officers supposed to react to their own union's slow and timid support in the case? In most of these cases? Well, sources are saying that they are discouraged. The union finally sent a strong mayor to the message, but only after pressure from members of the union itself. An unprecedented number of officers attended a membership meeting in September where Mayor LaFrance was invited to try and explain why she threw them under the bus after the shooting of that 16-year-old girl, Easter Lifa, on August the 13th. LaFrance had immediately called a press conference to say that the shooting should not have happened, which, again, in and of itself seems like you're kind of trying to place some blame here on things that may not need to have blames happening. Anyway, after the meeting with the police force, she promised a public apology, but she didn't make the apology in like a press conference or anything else. She basically attended a meeting and then read a paragraph where she actually never said, "I'm sorry, I didn't back the boys in blue" or anything. Then there's another problem. The union is also contributing to the staffing and morale problem at APD because by both the internal police policy and the Muni Code of Ethics, they're not allowed to take public positions under the color of authority, meaning, I'm not supposed to wear my police uniform and go endorse people and do that kind of stuff. It's wrong and illegal. But the police union put together a recent political flyer supporting Kelly Merrick with a personal endorsement made by the union's vice president while he was wearing a full APD uniform. And then she goes on to cite the specific code to say where they should not be able to do this kind of stuff. So the Anchorage police officers know the union's doing something illegal, but they can't even object to the illegality because they've already wedged between a mayor and an assembly that's made them a target. And on top of that, now we're dealing with a whole problem with this whole SB 91. It's called Rule 45, which has been going on, which has been in the Anchorage Code for a while, but it's creating a whole different set of problems. So the union has been busy hanging flyers on the doors for Kelly Merrick. The flyers make an outlandish claim that says the Americans for Prosperity, who's backing Jared Goecker, said that they're a defund the police group, which is not true. But all this other, can you wonder why these people would want to show up for work and talk about this kind of stuff? But here's the thing, what's going on with this Rule 45 in Anchorage. And this is super interesting because, again, you'll all recall the big battle we had over SB 91, right? That was the hill where John Coghill wanted to die on, and he eventually did die on that hill because they wanted it to, this was the soft on crime bill where everybody got a citation, nobody got arrested, yada, yada, yada. Well, they have a catch and release program in Anchorage that's similar to that. It's called Rule 45. And apparently LaFrance has built a budget that helps make Rule 45 into a true reality. The municipal prosecutor's office at the Anchorage mayor's office is overwhelmed with cases. The office, which deals with all the misdemeanor cases in the city, as well as assaults, domestic violence, thefts, disorderly conduct, and more, can't keep up. In addition to the local cases brought through arrests, there are state of Alaska cases that start out as felonies, but then are reduced to misdemeanors and end up in the municipal prosecutor's inbox. They have 13,000 cases per year. Anchorage currently doesn't have enough prosecutors to handle the workload, The backlog has led to about 60 cases a week being automatically dismissed by the court simply because the cases run out of time. The time set by the Supreme Court was a speedy trial, right? 120 days. That's what it is. The law known as Rule 45 says you get a speedy trial, which is 120 days. But since thousands of cases are not brought to trial within that time frame, 240 cases a month adds up to 2,880 potential criminal convictions that are dismissed due to Rule 45. In addition, Anchorage leadership now has a restorative justice mindset as defined by portions of the mayor's first budget document. She lays out a bunch of money for parks and trails. She funds DEI officers and other things, but she's not hiring a single criminal prosecutor, even though they're backed up and they're dismissing these cases because they don't have the money, because they're busy buying widgets and mowing lawns and everything else. They can't be bothered to hire another prosecutor. Criminal defense attorneys in Anchorage now look like rock stars because their clients are getting off scot-free as long as they don't violate the conditions of probation while they await trial. In her budget, LaFrance adds money to the administration in the municipal attorney's office and takes 4.68% of the funds away from the criminal prosecutors. She added no positions to the criminal division while boosting the civil division budget by 7%. The civil division deals with impounded vehicles and provides legal counsel support and advice on specific legislation, municipal codes, charters, legislative procedures. The responsibility and authority of the municipality represents the municipality and its officials and employees in civil litigation. So she got all the civil litigation stuff to protect themselves and all that. She put 7% in there, but not on the criminal side where they're having to kick cases to the curb each and every day. I mean, man, this is not a time that I would want to be living in Anchorage with all this stuff going on. And the resignations, as they said, the resignations have started to increase. Why would you want to be in a situation where basically every arrest that you make that's not like a DUI arrest is being kicked to the curb because there's not enough people to prosecute it. Right now, I'm just glad. First of all, I'm glad I don't live in Anchorage. And I question as to why many people would want to stick around if this is how bad. I mean, did you see the video the other day or the story about the gal who's lived down? I can't remember where she lives, somewhere down on 3rd or 4th Avenue. And she's had like 3 or 4 drive-by shootings on her rental property. She goes, I don't know why they're targeting this house, but literally they drive by and they shoot the house up. I mean, this is not a community that I think a lot of people would want to live in. And it's starting to get a little spooky out there. And if you can't prosecute the criminals who are doing the stuff to begin with, where do you go from here? Where is when does the breakdown in the rule of law happen when you see that kind of stuff? Anyway, I don't know. You guys answer me. If you don't live in Anchorage now, would you live in Anchorage in the future? Or if you're living there now and you're looking to get out, why? Is it in part because of the crime? Is it in part because of some of the insanity in the government? I'd like to know. 319-527-3864, The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. I'm scrolling through here. See what else is going. I'm interested in that opening, says Debbie. What is the budget for the low budget radio program? It's pretty low. It's pretty low. It's you know, do it on a shoestring. Just went outside. What's with the grass, says Rick. It's all crunchy. All the grass outside is like because it's frozen. Nobody brought a jackup rig into the inlet. 151 came up in 2011 and has been here ever since. Cook Inlet driller PR teams are trying to make it seem like they're really making things happen for political reasons. Okay, thank you, Kyle, for the thing. Let's see. Vote Alaska Before Party is making all kinds of nasty campaign ads. This morning was Nick Begich. I agree with Nick. It's a Social Security's a Ponzi scheme by definition, so who's calling them out? You missed the first hour of the show this morning, Nick, Timothy. We went through all that stuff and talked about that repeatedly. Let's see. They released a video of them shooting Easter. Yes. Sandy says Rule 45 has been letting folks get off a long time. Yep. APDEA is cutting off their noses to spite their faces. They support Dems at all costs, says Lynn. I mean, yeah, I mean, it would seem like that probably is, they probably should check in with their membership before they make those decisions. Jerica says it's no wonder law enforcement has had a recruitment problem for almost a decade now. I mean, yeah, I've always thought that too, is how demoralizing it must be for a police officer to do all the good work, to go out there to, to protect and serve, to, solve the crime, apprehend the criminal, whatever, and then just have them revolve right out the door after doing all that work. That must be a frustrating thing. That is, that it must be absolutely frustrating. Chris says she could not live in Anchorage. Yeah, I feel that. I don't think I would want. First of all, I couldn't afford to. Second of all, I wouldn't really want to. It's all Brian says it's the lack of defined benefits. That's what's keeping them from hiring more people. Let's see. Tawny says I've never lived in Anchorage and will never live in Anchorage. Always lived in the Mat-Su. Yeah. I would never live in Anchorage, says Jerica. Boy, never. Capital nevers. And it's literally just because it's Anchorage. It's dirty. It's poorly managed. The whole city just gives off bad vibes. To be fair, I lived there for a couple of years in elementary school, and it was a completely different city then. So there you go. All right. There you go. Okay. I'm all caught up. With you guys now. So what else do you guys... Excuse me. What else do you guys want to talk about this morning? What else do I got to talk about here? The legislature's banned protest signs in the legislature's banned protest signs in the legislative chambers in the state capitol. We talk about that. You want to talk about the Walter Featherly, Julie Colomb race? Is there something else you guys want to talk about? Governor Dunleavy spending $10,000 on Facebook to support an education deal. You want to talk about that? You guys tell me, what do you want to talk about? Which one of those sounds good to you? Or is there something completely different that you'd like to talk about? You drive the bus here. Let's get to it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe. Ring the bell on YouTube after you hit subscribe. Let's do it.
public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Okay. I was just asking the listeners here in the chat room what the next topic was that they wanted me to take on, because I'm kind of floating around here, just looking at different things like, what do we want to talk about here? We got a couple other news stories we can do. We got the phone lines are open at 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. Terry's on the line here. Before I get to Terry, Tawny threw this question up. She says, can I switch topics and ask a question? If the Constitution of Alaska protects the right to privacy, even to decide to kill your child through abortion, doesn't that same right allow me to bow out of paying for someone else's decision to do that? Tawny, I would assume that you could if you were actually if you actually had to write the check for the tax, you might have a leg to stand on here. But since the state is drawing all its funding from the royalty and from the oil, and none of that power is passing through it, the only way you would have a chance to not pay for that is to convince your legislator not to use state funds for it. That would be the only way you'd be able to do it. But I mean, yeah, you should have the right to be able to say, I don't agree with that and I don't want to pay for it. But there is a process, obviously. And but because we don't get taxed directly for that stuff, they just get free access to the piggy bank. You could do whatever they want. So it means you've got to go convince your legislator not to offer state funding for it, right? Because you can't even not pay the tax in protest. You're just like, it's like withholding. They just took it from you and they're like, thanks for the money. And you're like, wait, I didn't even get a choice. And they're like, yeah, that's too bad. Sorry. So there you go, Tawny. That's the answer there. All right. Let's go over to the phones. Terry is on the line. Let's see what Terry has to say this morning. Good morning. What are you thinking?
Good morning. Going back to the Crook Inlet natural gas thing, I just found out some interesting information this last week. A very good friend of mine that lives down in Sterling, his son-in-law is working on 3 new oil wells going into Kenai. And the company he works for is CCI, Critical Construction Infrastructure. And the company that owns the wells is it's CINGSA Cook Inlet. So I'm wondering how much of this natural gas emergency is actually a natural gas emergency when we have 3 new wells coming online right now.
You're saying, you said oil wells,
question.
you said oil wells, but they're drilling gas wells is what they are, right?
Gas wells, yes.
Yeah. So, well,
So,
I mean,
anyway,
yeah,
3 new gas wells coming online.
yeah, no, Terry, this has been part of my question the whole time is it really a crisis, or is there something else going on where it's kind of one of those Rahm Emanuel never let a crisis go to waste things? Because you have just told me that. I received an email from somebody who worked for one of the majors in the Cook Inlet and said, hey, we have capped 3 or 4 wells that have gas in them. And it's like we're just kind of sitting on them. And I'm wondering what's going on, to which I said, well, that makes me wonder what's going on as well. So is it really a crisis, or is it a ploy or a play to get more favorable conditions in the short run so that then they can, uncap these wells, discover these wells, increase the flow? I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but it definitely raises my questions, because it doesn't seem like, because again, I'm just distrustful, I guess, at this point, and I'm worried that they're just trying to create an artificial crisis to get better conditions for themselves.
I agree. I just think it's really interesting that 3 new wells right now being brought online. Is there really a crisis? It'd be interesting to get the real story. Maybe Brad Keithley could look into that.
Yeah, we'll see if Brad is familiar with it, and we'll see what we can find out on that. I appreciate you bringing it forward and sharing it with us. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
That leaves all the lines open right now at 319-527-3864. I mean, you've been watching this, right? You've been watching this whole thing go on. You've been seeing the debate and the discussion about the crisis of the Cook Inlet gas and how, MEA and Chugach Electric and all these other ones are probably going to have to raise their rates and everything. I guess the question then becomes, do you think it's real? Do you think that it is really a crisis, or do you think that it is overblown and being utilized as a way to try and solidify or to better their positions? I mean, it's a question. I'm suspicious, I guess is what I'm saying. I am suspicious of what's going on there. But maybe that's just me. Let's go over here. Carlene's back on the line. Carlene, what's on your mind?
More, spelled M-O-A-R.
More. Yeah.
More. A lot has been happening lately. Carolyn Glick was on, I think that, one show that Israel is now fighting the war on 7 fronts. And then Americans have about 26 credit cards, and 2 out of 3 of the cards are maxed out. And then about the broadband, the FCC commissioner, Brendan Carr, was on the Charlie Kirk show and said that George Soros just bought 200 radio stations. They did not discuss the regulations and the licenses. And then about what he was talking about was Starlink to the rural America. Have a deal with Elon Musk. It would cost $1,300 for each location. It would have come to $682 million, but they broke the deal with Elon Musk, and it's going to cost it's $42 billion and expanding to rural America. And they've done this since 2021, and not one person has been hooked up yet. It's very highly dysfunctional mismanagement, DEI, and climate change tied to the program. But that's not what I'm calling about.
Okay.
Tomorrow, Brad Peasley will be on. And there was an article, an opinion piece in Kodiak Daily Mirror, Thursday, 26 September, about Hillcore owner hosts fundraisers for Trump. And Trump wants the industry, oil and gas, to give him $1 billion. So they've already had 2 meals, $250,000 a plate, $500,000 for a couple. And they've had 2 of those. These are all documented from the Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and the Daily Beast. And Hillcore owner is 119 on the billionaires list, the richest men in the world. And he owns a 56,000 acre ranch called the Sweden Ranch in Texas. He even has a polo field there, and his cattle, they use helicopters to herd the cattle. Then he owns John Denver's land. And I thought Hillcore was a corporation owned by many people, but it's owned by one person. He was even trying to buy the Remington Ammunition Company for $2 billion in cash, and then just withdrew that bid. So he's one of the richest men in the world. He bought BP, which is Hillcore bought BP Holdings. And this article is just full of things by Dermot Cole.
Right,
and I
right.
don't know who he writes for, but I've
Dermot Cole
underlined all of this.
Yeah, Dermot Cole is a writer out of Fairbanks, kind of a curmudgeonly older guy who writes out of Fairbanks. Look, yes, the guy who owns Hillcorp is a gazillionaire. He makes a lot of money. I don't begrudge anybody who's made good money on what's going on. Should they be on a level playing field with the rest of the oil companies? I think that probably makes sense. But I don't begrudge people from making good money and living the American dream. But they also shouldn't get special deals. That's the other thing. They should again, it should be an even playing field. And so, I mean, my question still stands. Do we believe that this crisis is a real crisis, or is it a fictitious crisis to try and better the position of some of the producers in the inlet? And I mean, I think I think that question is still under review, I think, at this point, Carlene.
Yes, thank you, Michael.
All right. Appreciate your call. Thank you very much. Let's go over here. I think we got this caller right here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Brian down in Kenai.
Hey, Brian. What's on your
And I
mind?
was calling about that last caller on the 3 gas wells.
Sure.
It's for a company called Sphinxa. It stands for Cook Inlet Natural Gas Storage Alaska.
Okay.
And that's not new gas. Those are just storage wells they're putting in, and they fill those up in the summer when we have low gas demands
Okay.
for use in the winter.
So what they're drilling is they're not drilling new wells. They're drilling storage wells to be able to pump the gas off at low demand times and then utilize it in high demand times.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. Like I said, I hadn't heard of this, so it's good to know, and I appreciate you giving us the clarification. So Cook Inlet Natural Gas Storage Association, is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Brian. Well, thank you for the clarification on that. I appreciate it. Let's go over here. We got one more call here before we run out of time. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Billy from the Kenai Peninsula. I may or may not have been the one that contacted you about the stored gas and the capped wells in the inlet.
Okay, Billy. I don't recall, but do you have some more insight in this?
No, you just said it. You said it that your station was contacted about the gas that was in the inlet, and they had it stored there. It's been there for a while. But yeah, I was surprised to hear that last caller say that the owner, Jeff Hildebrand, gave a bunch of money to Trump. Well, he owns Hillcorp. He also owns OMSI, which is the company that runs the boats, that runs all the cargo. He owns all the different companies, kind of like Trump. He's like a mini Trump, where he's using all the different corporations as tax beneficiaries to pay for one another. And it's smart, but he really doesn't know what's going on. It's other people running the business. So, each people are running the different companies, but there's multiple companies that he owns that are all working in tandem to all be under one tax umbrella. The boats are written off. He has the helicopters for,
right.
But actually he owns 16 of the 17 platforms out there. There's one other one that's owned by Fury Gas and Oil. So
right.
He doesn't have everyone out.
But isn't that a smart move?
Yeah.
I mean, if you own a company that and you need a service and you can buy a service company that can serve your other company, wouldn't that make sense? To me, it would. is an interesting one because, as I said earlier, I think this is the one that they're throwing a lot of shekels into and a lot of highlights on because they understand that this race, this legislature is hanging on by a thread. All they really have to do is swap one, right? I mean, that's really all they have to do is maybe get one seat, maybe two, and they can totally change what's going on. And make the whole thing turn the whole majority upside down. And so this Featherly race, Featherly and Colomb has been a very, very interesting setup. And we're going to get into that here in a minute. But I do have one call on hold. So as soon as I get back into it here and get things squared away, we're going to be part of it here and jump on board and get it square, get the phones squared away here. Let me see if I can get the phone lines up here in just a second. Come on. We're trying to do it. All right. I'm going to leave the phone lines and then we'll see if we can get it squared away. So let me jump back in one more time. All this technical troubleshooting live on the air. We love this. We love it. All right, here we go. Getting it squared away. And boom. Okay. Finally, we're back in the phones again. So again, if you would like to call in, it looks like Bill is not there anymore. The number to call is 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. If you would like to be a part of it, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say on any topics that's up and for fair game right now. So as soon as we get Bill's call show up here in the thing, we'll jump over to that. But one of the interesting things is that the ADN doesn't seem to be doing is that it doesn't seem to be diving into the history of the candidate. Colomb has a very short history. She's basically a political neophyte, right? She just has this one session under her belt, and they go over her votes on this, but they don't talk about Featherly's positions in the past. But Must Read did a little digging, and they've got a little bit of a more interesting take on this. And so we can get into that here in a minute. Let's go over to the phones though first and get Bill on the line to see what's going on. Morning, Bill. What's on your mind?
Well, I've got two analogies that relate to Peltola and the Ponzi scheme comment.
Okay.
First of all, the Ponzi scheme of Social Security has been, long spoken of long before Nick Begich came along. Okay, Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, just like the chain letters that were popular quite a while back. Okay, the people running the chain letter game would collect money, skim some of it for themselves, and then keep putting out the advertising for the thing and pay out money to at least some of the early participants, right? Okay.
Right.
Social Security has been used not as a bank for payments that are going to be returned to you out of money that was collected. Instead, it's just pulled out of the general budget, the federal general budget. Okay. Now, one of the reasons that we don't have as much money coming into Social Security as we might is because of the practice of encouraging small families and abortion. Okay, so you don't have replacement people coming into the Ponzi scheme, if you will, and stop and think about it. We can be concerned, especially the left-wing environmentalists environmentalist types, they can be concerned about all kinds of life, aside from human life. For example, suppose that someone was to abort a blue whale embryo, okay? However you might do that, harpoon it or whatever, okay? People would, especially on the environmentalist left, would be going insane over that. But to take a human life, they're just fine with that. And, a blue whale embryo is only going to grow up into one thing if it survives. It's going to end up growing into a blue whale. A human embryo is only going to develop into one thing if it survives. It's going to turn into a human.
Right.
Because it's already a human.
Right.
In effect. Same with the blue whale.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, I said, although Social Security doesn't directly match the exact definition of Ponzi scheme, we understand that it works in a similar fashion. And I think that was the whole point of this whole thing. And they missed the fact that they got so caught up in the language of it. Oh, but it's not exactly a Ponzi. What he's saying is something's got to be done. Something's got to be fixed. We can't keep going. And then the idea that somehow they took his comments on that and then read that to be that he wanted to eliminate Social Security was the ridiculous part of this whole thing. I mean, that was the part that really just got my goat on that.
And that was what Reagan was accused of back when he was running as a presidential candidate. He was going to destroy Social Security, know, and Rush Limbaugh used to joke about, the people that were taking away the storm drain grates that were in the pavement that would let heat up to let the homeless people get warm.
Right.
I mean, the whole thing is so stupid. It's Social Security is obviously a Ponzi scheme. But by another name or whatever.
All right.
Anyway, that was it.
All right, Bill. Well, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate your thoughts on that, and I appreciate you commenting on it. Yeah, look, I mean, that's the thing. Whether it matches the exact definition or not. And again, I found it interesting that the Huffington Post spent a half of the article giving you the history of what Charles Ponzi and the whole scheme was, and I think they touched on Madoff and everything else, that they got so wrapped up in what the actual definition of it was that they missed the forest for the trees. And that's the biggest part of the problem. And then to try and tie it to the fact that somehow Nick Begich wanted to eliminate Social Security because he said it was a Ponzi scheme. That's not what he was talking about. He was talking about wanting to fix it, wanting to change it, wanting to make it better and make it so that it was solvent and that it would be there. And nobody seems to want to. Anytime you talk about trying to fix it, you immediately get accused of wanting to destroy it. The problem is it's not going to exist in its current form if they just leave it alone. It won't be there. And again, I hate to be selfish, but they say that it's supposed to run out the year before I get started. I'd like some of that money back, please. Could I just have some of that money back? Please. All right, we're out of time for today. Tomorrow, Brad Keithley, Chris Story, The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Be kind, love one another, live well. Okay. Michael, do you have a recording of the show where the Ponzi scheme comment was made? Yes. It was in June of 2023 when Nick Begich joined us in June of 2023. You can go back, back out there and take a look at it if you want. If any is yes on Prop 2, what? If any yes on Prop 2, I'm willing to do a commercial for that as well. Oh, if any of you are part of the yes on Prop 2, I think is what he's trying to say. Yeah. Miguel says he's willing to do that as well. All right. Yeah. Oh, because he was saying here, I'm sorry, I missed his previous comment. Yes, on two, and FYI, I'm a retired combat vet and will challenge any veteran who thinks otherwise, like the commercial gentleman. It does not force any active duty or retired veteran to choose a political party. There you go. There you go. That's what it's all about. All right, folks. Well, sorry about the little glitch there, but we'll get rolling for tomorrow. We'll see you guys then. Be kind. Love one another. Have a good day.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.